6:31 p.m. With us present at council chambers, committee members are Councilor Linda Bacon and Councilor Jenny Rivera, as well as myself, Israel Rivera. And present in council chambers is Councilor Michael Sullivan and no one else. Online, we have Mr. Diego Martins, who I believe will be speaking on item 2 and 3 when he gets a chance. I'll entertain a motion to open the meeting.
Councilor Bartley had a conflict. I don't know about Councilor McGrath.
Oh, no, Meg, yes, will be at the CPA meeting. Councilor Bartley actually never reached out to me, but apparently he reached out to you with regards to the conflict. So I entertain a meeting to take up item 1. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Item 1 is the minutes of the January 8, 2025 meeting.
Motion to receive the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Motion to take up item 2.
Wondering if we could take up item 2 and 3 as a package.
Motion take up item 2 and 3 as a package and open the public hearing.
Second.
Is it 2 public hearings? Yes.
Yes.
And open up the public hearings, plural.
Yes. And then seconded by Councilor Jenny Rivera. All in favor?
Aye.
That's 3 yeas. So the first item is public hearing 12 zone change application by Mr. Diego Martins and Jeffrey Diaz at 736 Dwight Street from BL to DR to develop properties with duplex and triplex apartments. And then item 3 is zone change application Diego Martins at 718 Dwight Street from BL to DR to develop properties and duplex, triplex apartments. With us is Mr. Diego Martins. If you'd like to present or have the floor, feel free to do so that you can talk more about your plans with the project. I don't see anyone online. If there is, feel free to raise your hand or make yourself known to our administrative assistant if you want to speak up. In council chambers, there's no one present, but if when Mr. Martins is presenting or speaking, someone walks in and has something to say, we will recognize them. So thank you and feel free to take the floor.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak here today. Just want to confirm everyone can hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. So our proposed plan, we currently have 712 Dwight Street that we started as our first renovation project in Holyoke, which is the black and white building on that same corner block. When I took that project over, we had a piece of land to the right of the building if you're facing it. And our plan at that time was to develop row houses that are handicap accessible and along the left side of Walnut Street. From there, we also plan to do the same thing on the opposite side of the street, which is, I think it's listed as the third motion for today. So our overall plan is to, with hope that by switching from its current zoning to downtown residential, it would liberate us and be able to build these townhomes. And through that, we not only increase the amount of housing available for people who are renting, but also increase revenue for the city with new tax revenue. If anyone has any specific questions, I'd be more than open to answer them.
Thank you. I'll entertain any questions from the council, if there's anyone on our end. Councilor Bacon.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in and looking into doing this development. You may have been before the city in some other capacity that I'm not aware of, but I am familiar with Springfield, and I'm wondering if you've done projects down there too.
I have. This is a hobby of mine. I'm actually a physician, but we have done other projects like this in Springfield. I did not from the ground up, but more like renovations and complete rehabs. We did a building across the street from the McDonald's on Page Boulevard. I've done other smaller homes, but this will be my first from the ground up construction.
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
often feel that it's probably easier to do from the ground up because when you're rehabbing an older building, you always find new obstacles, I should say.
Right, surprises.
Exactly.
So, and you, have you already been in front of the planning board?
So we've met with individuals from the building department and the planning board, sorry, that's my dog,
Okay,
to kind of go over what needs to be done to make this a possible realization, but I haven't officially been before the board.
okay, because you may already be aware of this, but we do depend upon their recommendation as part of our review process, just so you're aware.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Anyone else? I guess on my end, I also would say thank you for choosing Holyoke to come and develop and take up projects, right? Because you said it was a hobby. I appreciate your hobby, especially on those two parcels that you referenced. I think for me, nostalgically, I've walked past those blocks when they were actual abandoned buildings. Well, when people lived in them, and then when they were abandoned, and then when they were lots. As a kid growing up, walking home from school, from the high school or from Magnet Middle School to the flats, and then just different adventures as a teenager. That's going to actually reshape how that block looks, and we really appreciate some of that work. Councilor Bacon?
Could you just go over with us how many units will be involved on each address as you're envisioning it?
Yeah, so it's going to be 6 units on each side. It will be one duplex, so two apartments stuck together. Then there'll be some grass, and then there'll be a triplex, which is like a duplex, but it's 3 apartments, and they're row houses.
Okay.
So they're divvied up where the bedrooms are combination of they're on the second floor and on the first floor, open floor concept with a kitchen and living room, and then they have the basement.
Okay, so both sites would be the same?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm envisioning something to kind of look like, kind of like the brownstone things that you kind of see in
Yep.
like some of the historical areas of Springfield, even like downtown Boston type, with the stone on the front. Although we'll have to use some vinyl siding and stuff like that, but that's kind of what we're aiming for. We have some 3D renditions. If I could figure out how to show them, I would, but I could always send them to you.
Yeah, I was gonna say if after this meeting we'll probably still leave the public hearing open so that way we align with the planning board. But I think that throughout the process for the next public hearing, if you can somehow send some of that to us through our administrative assistant, that would be great. Because as much as we talk about it, I think for some of us we would like to see like how it would look and how it's going to be mapped out or whatnot in the future. But Councilor Rivera, Jenny Rivera.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for coming to my ward, because I believe you're by the post office, right?
Are you talking to myself? Yeah,
Yes.
we're building by the post office, yeah.
Okay, now, didn't you come here before and we got a layout of what they were
Yep.
gonna look like? I thought so.
I brought those last time, yep.
Yeah, you
When we
brought
were
the,
proposing so the renditions were done initially when we were trying to acquire the land, and we included those in the package.
there were pictures inside and out. It was absolutely beautiful. Thank you. I was confused. I was like, wait a minute, he did come by and we had the map and we had all the pictures and the planning and everything.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
thank you.
If Jeff, if we could get that somehow, then he might not have to resend it. But if in case, you might, it would be good if you do, because I
Yeah,
don't
I have
recall
them.
that, but
I
that's
have
good.
them on my computer.
All right, Councilor Bacon again.
thank you. And as you're probably aware, the big issue in all of these developments is the parking and what provisions there will be for that, and if there's enough room. That's always a big concern. So just
sorry.
curious about how that's looking.
So we reviewed that kind of with the building department. Since we have the building on Also 712 Dwight Street, there's space behind that that will be developed into further parking. And if you look at the plans from the original ones that we had done that were just brought into question, there were more units than what we're talking about building now.
Oh, okay.
And that's the point of doing that. There'll be areas where we can also place vehicles. So we won't have space for a large parking lot, but we'll have space enough to keep one vehicle per apartment.
Okay. Thank you.
Space is of a limit, yeah.
Right, right.
Yep.
That's a challenge everywhere.
Anyone else? So I guess I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing.
So, where do you want to continue it to?
I would say 30 days. Jeff, do you have a timeline as to when the planning board should be taking it up?
They'll be opening their public hearing on Tuesday, February 11th.
Oh,
Oh, so then should we do 2 weeks after that?
well,
So if you're looking at, go ahead.
do you think
Go ahead.
they'll do it in one hearing? That would be quick.
Could you get back to us, Jeff, to see when it would be best
We do have to
put it
date, though.
to put it back on the agenda? Or could we just safely say the second meeting in February for now?
Why don't we do that? Because we have to go to a date certain.
Yeah, let's just do the second meeting in February, Jeff, if that's
Is
possible.
that the 19th, the Wednesday?
I'd have to ask.
Are you looking at first and third or second and fourth Wednesday?
I was looking at first and third, but are you looking at second?
The third Wednesday would be the 19th. Let me just make sure there isn't something else. Nope, that date's open.
So let's do the 19th for now then. That works.
So I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing till February 19th at 6:30.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved, 3-0, that the public hearing is continued to February 19th at 6:30 p.m. Thank you, Mr. Martins, for showing up, and see you again then. I'm sorry to extend this and prolong it, but it's part of the process.
Thank you.
No, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Motion to take up item 4.
4.
Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 4 was filed by Councilor Sullivan. This is order that the vacant building fee be adjusted to take into account the size SF of the building. Currently, a flat fee is assessed, which is not reflective of the burden to the city and its taxpayers. We've met on this twice already. Once, actually. The second time, we didn't actually get to talk about it. Here we have Councilor Sullivan, who has some newer updates from Mr. Rivers. You want to speak more on it, or you want me to just read off the form, the numbers that he presented? I got you, bro.
If I could get a copy of that, because my computer just went blank. Look at that. And I thought I was.
Do you remember, Linda?
I'm sorry?
Do you remember he came with the plan?
Great.
Vaguely.
I think they were like grayish.
So yeah, it's on page 4 in the back sheet. If you want to go into it, if not, I can read off of it.
So I can start?
Yeah.
All right. So after the last meeting, we went back and we talked about it. And as we can see here in the revised proposal, there'd be absolutely no changes in 1 to 3 unit dwellings. That would remain unchanged. That is currently at $500, and that's absolutely fine. The changes, right, that we're looking at here is to add in the tiers, right? And right now, so for 4+ units, commercial, non-residential, less than 1 year, it stays the same. It's exactly what it is now. There is no fee, right? 1 to 2 years, right? It's $1,500, which is what it is currently, right? And the changes occur after 2 years. And what we need to keep in mind, all of these fees can be waived if there's an active plan in front of the city, if there's building permits pulled, if there's something going on, right? So currently, over 2 years, the fee is $3,000. Now, that, if you have to use a very broad comparison, if you have an outhouse, it's $3,000. If you have the Empire State Building, it's $3,000. It's the same. So in the tier breakdown, what we're looking at is if you're above 3,000 square feet and you're over 2 years with no plan at all for rehab in front of the city, the fee would go to $6,000. It would double, all right? If you're over 8,000 feet to 14,000 square feet, it would go to $8,000. 14,000 square feet to 14,000 to 49,999 square feet, right? The fee would go to $10,000. And above 50,000 square feet, the fee would go to $15,000, right? Now, the reason for such a high fee is when you look at some of the buildings that are over 50,000 square feet, you have two different categories. You have buildings that are very viable, right? And you have buildings that are blighted, right? What happens with the viable buildings? You can use as, for example, and believe me, I'm not targeting any individual owner, but these are just good examples because it's been in front of us now time and time and time again, and I'm hearing it from every citizen in the city. Kmart Plaza, all right? There you go. If right now they don't care. They pay their $3,000, they pay their taxes, and they go on their merry way. Well, maybe when the fee jumps to $15,000, we might get their attention a little more. They might start returning some phone calls. The same goes for 111 Mosier Street. A good, viable employer in Holyoke that employed people in Holyoke was moved out of there in the green rush. The marijuana company never went forward with their plans. They sold it at a premium. An investor from New York State bought the thing and has sat there vacant ever since. All right? I believe it's a tax write-off. We have the same thing going on with Hamden Papers. Once again, same thing happened. Jobs were lost, companies were lost, tax revenues were lost. This is real measurable financial hardship to the city, all right, and to the citizens. But they continue to pay the taxes and they continue to pay the vacant building fee. So, and the other thing to keep in mind with these companies, this might not affect them at all, all right? But what it will do, as we heard last night, we have a revolving building fund. This money will start going into that revolving fund. So where it grew 100,000 last year, the potential is there maybe to grow the thing by $250,000 every year. And these are the monies we need to take care of the blighted properties, right, that can't be addressed or we're struggling to address right now and are burdened on the taxpayers. Jeffrey, I've got a couple of photos too. Could we put, you can choose them at random and I'll use them as examples as we go of some of the blighted buildings.
Can I ask Mike a question?
So do we have them on the screen?
Mike, 1 second. I think Councilor, and I'm sorry to interrupt, Councilor Vacan has a question.
Yep.
I'm just wondering if you know how many of these buildings there are. I don't know that you have all that information, but do you have any sense of it?
I could throw a pretty good dart, probably 25.
Okay.
Right.
I just wanted a ballpark idea.
Yeah, it would take a little bit of digging on the part with the tax collector.
Yeah,
and the
and
assessor-
I'm
the
just looking
assessor,
for
but, you know,
an idea, like, is it 10 or 100, like, kind of thing? And then are there some that just need to be demoed?
Yes, so.
Okay.
Here
All
on the
right.
screen, you can see a good
Yep.
example, all right? This property owner pays their taxes. They pay their vacant building fee, all right? The reason, well, one of the reasons they do this is it's cheaper than tearing it down,
Right.
all right? Well, now if the fine on something like this goes to $10,000, they might have to start thinking seriously about either selling the building or demolishing it, right? Or finally taking on the rehab themselves instead of paying the pittance that they pay just to leave it sit there like it is. Next one, Jeff?
So can I ask another question?
Yep.
So is the city having to do anything with the building like that? Because it looks like it's partly falling down. Like, does the city have to go in there and make sure it's safe,
Well,
even though it's
first-
privately owned, or?
Well, first, the city, yes, the Board of Health has broad powers. The Board of Health can go in there and board the thing up. But we have nobody doing board ups anymore. I won't get,
But then could we bill the owner, or does the city have to pay for it
we attach a lien for doing
against the
work.
property?
Correct, yep,
But still, it's a cost to the city
yes.
to deal with it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
And it's a cost to the city in more ways
Right.
than that, as I'll get into as we do
Okay.
these here, because the other cost to the city, the people, the drug addicts that get into the building,
Right.
the transients and stuff, are ambulances having to go to these buildings?
Yeah.
Yes. Are the police having to respond to these buildings?
Yeah.
Yes. Are they unsafe for the neighborhood and the residents? Yes. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
with
there is
you.
a tremendous impact. So here you have a picture. This is another building. And I'll say one more thing about the last one you looked at. When we talk about a housing crisis in Holyoke, that last one you looked at, that could be, probably, I think, 12 or 16 more units of housing available. So it's hurting in other ways also. When we have basic economics, when we have a shortage of housing, supply and demand, basic 101 economics. Shortage of supply, the higher the lower the supply and the higher demand, the higher the price.
Right.
All right? And that's what's going on in Holyoke. And so does it hurt in another way also? Yeah, sure does. This one here, this is another structure. It was bought by a marijuana company. Well, speculators, they never did anything with it. It was a city-owned property, I believe.
Yeah.
This is the old Wonder Bread.
So then we have a reverter clause.
Yep, time to exercise it. Look, there you can see what's happening. You can see the floor and the roof have collapsed into the basement. Next one, Jeff. There's what's going on outside the building. That's a syringe and a shopping cart outside the building. Next one, Jeff. You jumped one. I did one more. Well, maybe, yeah, yes. And there's the outside of that building. That's the same building. And where the roof is caved in, it's now pushing the walls out into the parking lot where the employees park for Holyoke Waterworks. All right, so very unsafe condition. And if you could go back to the other one, Jeff. Same deal, this one is right on Main Street. This is 62 Main Street. I don't know if we can zoom in on that a little bit, but this is one of the ones when I mentioned, we talked about public safety last night. That's a nice picnic table next to that brick wall that collapsed. That's behind the print shop, yeah. And I don't know if that whole building went, it could probably even hit the Amtrak. So here we go.
You think this
They
will
are
help?
paying their taxes, they're
Yeah.
paying their vacant building fee, and it's cheaper than tearing it down. So they just let it fall down. And
And we don't
like I
really
said,
want
there's-
it back, though, right? We want them to deal with it. We don't want it back.
right, but at some point it
Yeah.
becomes we have mechanisms to do it. We don't have the finances to do it, or to do them all. We can get into what's going on in Cabot Street, the same deal, across from Capri, next to Key Foods. So
I think my only question, Mike, not to cut you off, is
No,
like I agree with a lot of the tiers and like the a lot of what you're saying makes sense to me, 110%. I think the only one question I have is like, let's say someone is at tier 5, and every year they're accumulating that $15,000. What's to say that they don't just say, "Who cares?" And you know what I mean, like, and
Oh,
just
and they keep
allow
paying,
for-
and they
allow-
keep paying it?
I
Or
don't
they
know.
walk
They don't
away.
pay for it. They just walk away.
They don't pay it?
Yeah, just walk away. Just allow it to continue to accumulate like other property owners have.
Well,
Like, where is the point where we say as a city, we're not going to keep accumulating, we're just going to take it from you, type of thing? You know what I'm saying? Or is that
right, well, this, I believe this will force their hand, and we can, at that point, we can speed up that process now.
because I think that's the part where, as much as we can, like, these are all great and this is all great, but like the Wonder Bread is a perfect example. You said there's a reverter clause on it, and you just said it's time to start exercising that. We wouldn't know that until you just said that right now, right? Like, who's in the position that would start exercising that or putting the wheels in motion so that we can actually have the impact that you're trying to have with the things we're putting forward? You
Right.
get what I'm saying?
Yeah, some of that would fall on a team effort, which we used to have with the demolition supervisor, the building commissioner, the Board of Health has the most power. Right? Board of Health has the most power.
And I
right?
think the reverter clauses, those contracts are in the law department, aren't they?
Yep,
Or with the clerk?
yep.
But we would need someone to like be like paying attention to if someone's doing what they need to do, so that way it's not just
I think
randomly
that
coming up.
probably would be the building department, because they know about the permits.
Yep. But,
We could ask for a report,
I think that's the
you
only
know, on
thing.
the
yeah.
status.
I think that would be like I agree with all this. I'm with it. It's just like, how do we make it, because this is a quality of life issue, whether it's finance, whether it's someone's safety, whether it's just being detrimental to the community. You see this. I remember being there this past summer with my kids at an event that was hosted for the print shop, literally right at that table. Like, that's a quality of life issue where all of a sudden a building just falls apart and no one's. And I'm not the one about accountability and liability, but this is a situation here, and as a city, we have to. Whether or not the building owners are taking care of their thing, we're still kind of responsible for the way that looks, is one. And then the other piece is, if someone else gets hurt, like, we're not liable, but it still falls on us. Like, if someone dies or gets injured, you know what I mean?
it is, it's a fine line that we walk between, once we take the building, we take the responsibility.
Right, but
So
if,
if part of this gives us the money, the funds available, that when we do take it, we
Right.
can also take action. You don't want to take something unless you're ready to take action on it.
Exactly.
You don't want to just take the liability.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Right. So I see City Solicitor Manteleschi's hand is raised. I'd like to recognize you so that you can opine on this.
Thank you. I just wanted to echo what Councilor Sullivan is saying. Just because we do have, the law department does have the actual reverter deeds, right? But some of them, in communication with staff, we don't want to take them, right? Exercise the reverter right, because we have buildings that need work that the city cannot financially support at this point in time. So I was just going to hop on just to echo again what Councilor Sullivan was saying, that there are buildings that the city is desirous of acting on, but we just have not, because the funds aren't there for us to actually do the remediation work that would be needed. So I just wanted to put that out for the committee to just have that information. Thank you.
Hey,
Gracias.
Jane, you still there?
Yes. Yep,
Yeah.
I'm still here.
So, and help me with this also, because it's been a couple of years since I really did the deep dive on this. But the fine line we walk also isn't just in taking the building, it's a fine line in not taking the building. At what point we become liable also for not having taken action if something happens.
I mean, it's a incredibly fine line. So, I mean, there are some instances, I have a property, right now on Gatehouse, they are not compliant to, or they're not current on their taxes. But we have several, existing orders out there, or notices from building department, to do something with respect to their dangerous conditions. And I've even went to court on that one and gotten a court order for them to do the repairs or demo the building. And I have that court order, but the next step is what? Because, I mean, could the city go ahead and demo the building? Does it have those powers to do so? Absolutely. Do we have the funding to do that? No.
No.
So that's kind of, it's the ability to be able to go in and, again, as both Councilors Sullivan and Bacon said, you know, we don't want to take a building until we're ready to actually do something. And so the city's been trying to take those steps to try to really make property owners accountable, but even taking them to court. And it just doesn't seem that that even is enough without, and you know, we could take it in tax title, right, and move forward with that process because they're not current on their taxes. But again, does the city want that liability, especially when the city does not have those funds to do anything really that is necessary to make this structure safe? So that's kind of where it's a hard spot to be in because there's many things we could be doing, but we just aren't financially there at this point in time.
Yeah. Thanks, Jane. That was a great point. That was a really good example. I had forgotten about the Gatehouse Road one. That one in particular kind of opens a window for me to continue on last night. The cost of demolition on that particular building, if the city took it, would probably be around $300,000 would be a safe estimate. All right. So, and that particular building that Jane is referring to, right, could be done internally with our own crew overnight. So,
Councilor Reagan.
Point taken. So my question is, if we move on this, is it a matter of giving notice if we change the ordinance, or does it just go into effect and then the next bill that goes out is just the new bill? But I will say I'm warm to this. I think we need to try something. And at least we'll have more money to do something to the buildings if the owners don't do anything.
well,
So
absolutely right. But in some cases, it might not generate new revenue, but it'll force the process.
perhaps. I
Yes.
mean, that's the hope.
Yes.
But I think it's worth trying something different. And if the people do have the deep pockets, they have those long leases and they never do anything with the property till the lease runs out. I've seen that in other towns. They'll just let it sit there, and then once the lease runs out, it gets renovated. I
Yep.
think that's what's going on at Kmart Plaza, but I'm not positive. But anyway, I think I'm very supportive of trying this, and it seems like you did, and the others did a lot of due diligence on it and compared to some other communities to see if we were in the ballpark, reasonable with the building owners, but also trying to get our community upgraded and not sitting there deteriorating. So I'd be happy to make a motion to approve this schedule.
Real quick before I entertain the second, do we have language for it to be approved, or are we sending it for language to edit, to make an amendment to the actual ordinance now and incorporate this into the language?
So I think all we're doing is changing the fees. We would probably need a legal form to update the
Right.
fees within the ordinance.
So then we'll be asking for legal form approve, asking for legal form to send for vote at full council. or to
I'd
come
be
back?
good with that because we've had this before us
Yeah,
for a month,
I'm
right?
I'm warm to that.
So I'll amend my motion to approve the fee schedule, request the legal form for the next city council meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone
Thank you.
opposed? No. 3-0.
Thank you for your work on it.
And thank you, Mike, for seeing this through. Really appreciate that.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to take up items 5, 6,
No, only
and
5, and then
only 5?
No, yeah, no, you're correct.
gonna say
You're
5,
correct.
6,
I'm
and
wrong.
7 as a package?
5, 6, and 7 as a package. Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 3-0. 5 was filed by Councilor Murphy Ramboletti. This is one that I kind of want to get done with already. Order that the city create the position of municipal hearings officer to hear appeals by offenders of the state building code made pursuant to MGLC 14A, Section 2, and that a stipend be determined for said position. And then there is a letter regarding municipal hearings officer from Solicitor Attorney Mike Teleski. And then item 7 is from the building commissioner, Leslie D. Ward, regarding municipal hearings officer. Let me see these forms real quick. We have language. Where is 5? And there's 6. So 5. Oh, now it's not gonna work for real, Mike. So item 5 in the packet is actually the language for the ordinance, and then item 6 is the letter from City Solicitor Mentaleski. Additional information has been requested as to what the municipal hearings officer position would entail. Please let this letter provide such information. Pursuant to MGLC 148A, a municipal hearings officer can hear appeals related to the state building code and state fire code. We were informed that the city did not have a municipal hearings officer despite an appeal process being outlined in MGLC 148A. In addition, we have hearings officer despite in addition, we have subsequently been informed that the city actually adopted MGLC 40U back in 2010, but for some reason the adoption of said statute did not make it into Muni Code. We are working with the city clerk to ensure that the same is updated with the provisions of MGLC 40U. Section 6 of MGLC 40U requires the appointment of a municipal hearings officer. The municipal hearings officer should be a third-party contractor and not an employee of the City of Holyoke Department issuing the violation fine. In addition, as the law department would be the one enforcing the fine if litigation were necessary, an employee for the law department should also not be the municipal hearings officer. In addition, a stipend would be necessary to pay such contractor. The municipal hearings officer must also attend a state-mandated training. And then the other letter is from the commissioner. I would like to strongly urge to approve the appointment of municipal hearings officer for multiple reasons. In addition, the obligation already is in place set forth by adoption MGL 40U, Section 6. The city has historically had a contracted individual fulfill this role. This is not a new position. Without this procedure in place, the city is obliged to have all of our building code fine hearing held in the Springfield Housing Court and building code decisions appeals heard by the BBRS in Boston. This is difficult for all involved. A hearing with the state can be an intimidating process. It discourages some individuals from appealing decisions as a result. Hearings held in Springfield Housing Court are a drain on tax dollars in the form of employee hours and travel expenses for a relatively small amount. We could have a contracted individual hear our fine appeals on site, saving the city money. Additionally, without a municipal hearings officer, the city is unable to take advantage of the municipal non-criminal building code violation program pursuant to MGLC 148A and 780 CMR. This non-criminal violation program would allow the building department the ability to fund our own training through fine proceeds, as the fire department is currently able to do. The fire department currently has retired Chief Pond perform this service for their appeals hearings. I am simply requesting that we allow the building department the same flexibility as it had in the past. And then she says the most glaring evidence for the negative is the certificate inspection program currently underway in our city. And we spoke about this at length a couple meetings ago, and there were a couple different suggestions with regards to how this could be handled. I am under the impression that we move it forward to full council and have a vote taken up at full council to see which where it lands. I understand the concern that some of my colleagues have with regards to this possibly becoming another position and adding to the budget overall. But at the same time, I can hear where this technically is supposed to be funded by code, if I'm understanding it correctly, by MGL 40U. And Solicitor Manteleschi, you could correct me if I'm wrong. So
I would, and you're correct.
all right. So for me, I would be in favor of pushing it forward, just for us to begin coming under compliance with that measure. Now, with regards to how it gets handled, because to my understanding, this is a third-party contractor. We already have Chief Pond doing some of this work, and I think the understanding is that hopefully he can take on some more of this work with regards to just expanding his services, not just for fire, but also for building department. I have no say-so over that, but that's my understanding that that could be an easy fix. But I think one of the questions you had the last time, Councilor Bacon, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, was what was the limit with regards to the stipend?
Right, so I'm looking at the legal form.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if everybody's had a chance to look that over or not on the committee. But I'd like to offer an amendment that says the stipend shall be $2,500, not qualified by a not less than, which means it could be, anything up to anything.
Municipal hearings
You know.
officer shall be entitled to a stipend of not less than $2,500.
So I'd like to offer an amendment and just say a stipend of $2,500.
The only concern I would have, and you can offer the amendment if someone seconds it, I have no issues. I think the concern I have as to why I wouldn't second it is, and maybe let's find a different way to frame it. I get where you're trying to get at. You want it to be 2,500 and that's that.
I think that's similar to what we do for the fire.
Yeah, and the only thing is what if there's a time frame where this past year, for example, there's a lot of different cases that they have to deal with, and you know what? That's not wrong, because then they can come back and ask for more money if they need it. I'm not necessarily against it then, I guess.
I offered as an
So-
amendment. If it doesn't get a second, then it won't go in.
I'll second that. That's fine. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we're gonna make an amendment to D, where the stipend says no more than $2,500
Entitled to a
or
stipend of
$2,500. Yes, and then anything else, just in case. If not, then whenever anyone's ready, I'll entertain a motion
I'm assuming this just mirrors the code.
to approve with the amendment to be pushed to full council for a vote.
Yeah.
No, I can't. I'll entertain the motion.
I appreciate the committee making the amendment. I just am personally still struggling with adding more positions to the city because we're never getting rid of any positions. I mean, granted, there are some that aren't filled. That's a fact. And I recognize that.
And
But
I
again, we're not the final word on it, whether it comes out 2-1 or 3-1 or whatever, so.
right,
Yeah,
exactly,
so-
yeah. That's what I was gonna say. Where it's
So,
just help me get it out.
The
and then if
person
it
who
doesn't-
wants to
if it
pass
doesn't
it should make
pass,
the motion. I'll just say.
I'm the chair. All right, I guess.
Well, Jenny
Jenny,
can make
you
the
make the
motion.
motion?
The motion to
Approve.
approve through the city council?
Yeah,
City
approve
amendment?
the amendment to the ordinance and the amendment of D, of
Item D.
the item D, limiting the stipend up to $2,500. Do I have a second?
You can second it.
All right, second. All in favor?
I'm a no.
Aye and a no. So 2-1 to full council approval. To approve the amendment to the ordinance, and then also including the amendment to item D with regards to the stipends.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. And then what do we have?
Okay, so the next, take up item, where were we? Hang on. 8?
Oh, 8 and 9 is a package, actually.
8, motion to take up 8 and 9 as a package? Oh, but wait a minute. 8 is a public hearing. So we have to open the public hearing.
Yep. Give me
So-
1 second. Jeff,
Yes, sir?
8 is a public hearing. I know we planned on doing them both together because they were very similar, but are we opening up the public hearing and doing 9 at the same time?
I'm actually not sure if you can package something
So
with the
then,
public.
so then forget it. We'll take up item 8 by itself. Thank you.
So
Then.
motion to take up item 8 and can open up the continued public hearing.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 8 was filed by Councilor Graney. Order that no group homes, profit or nonprofit be allowed within the city limits of Holyoke, Mass. Without the approval of the Holyoke City Council. Vacant, if you can kind of speak on this, because Howie has not kind of like briefed me on what the intentions are here, other than what I see.
So the only information I have to add to this, other than what Attorney Bissonnette had let us know, was that we could implement, as I recall him saying, we could implement a special permit process that opened up the ability for the public to be aware of what was coming in. And I have further learned that at the state licensing level, there are rules around the density of group homes. For example, one certain kind of group home can't be within 2 miles of another. So we could, I believe, we could, through a public hearing process, assure that the permit-seeking entity was in compliance with that state density regulation. So I think there are certain things, and I just have to see if I can find I think I left them in the car. But Attorney Bissonnette had said that there were certain aspects of the special permit around place and that we would be entitled to be made aware of by the applicants, should we desire to set up that process.
Okay. Thank you. And then is there anyone online that would like to opine on this, since it's a public hearing? And I don't see anyone in council chambers. So I think I don't know where we're at with regards to the public hearing piece. I'm okay with closing it, but again, I haven't communicated with Councilor Graney. So
Well, so I guess what we know is that we cannot prohibit the group homes,
right.
but we can ask certain questions and we can be sure that state laws and other things are met for one that wants to come into the city. So I think we have enough information to close the public hearing, and then we can seek some further language from our law department as to how we could structure a public hearing process without breaking the as of right law.
All right. I see someone with their hand raised. Thank you, Councilor Bacon. Derek Randall. Name it. You can speak up if you'd like. Name and address.
Kill all niggers.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Appreciate you. So
So
Close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye. And then I would just ask that Attorney Bissonette could give us the language that he had indicated that we could seek through a public hearing and still be within the law.
Is that a motion?
I'll make a motion that we request legal to provide us with the language that we could, within the bounds of the law, seek information from an entity wanting to have a group home in Holyoke.
There you go. Suggested draft language from attorney regarding council notification. There's already language. Attorney Bissonette, if you want to opine or
Oh, I didn't
chime
know he
in.
was there.
I just saw him. Yeah.
Oh,
Work quick, Counselor Bacon.
I'm sorry?
I said I work quickly.
Oh, okay.
We had discussed this order at the last meeting,
Yes.
and there's a subsequent order from Counselor Anderson Burgos relative to much of the same. So in connection with those discussions, I provide this language, which basically allows for notice to be provided to the city council so that you don't get surprised when there's an application that comes in for any facility really that would not be subject to normal zoning because of its categorization or identification as a nonprofit or religious organization. So that will give you notice, so at least you know. The other thing I think that's relevant here is to make sure that when there's an occupancy permit issued, each involved city department should provide a statement that such use is in compliance with any and all local, state, and federal appropriate building, fire, safety, and health codes.
Okay.
So there is some room here. It's basically around notice, but then if there is a violation, it can be reported to state authorities in a situation such as the group home density issues you raised. So I hope this is helpful and be happy to do any changes to it that committee sees fit.
Thank you, Attorney Bissonette. Councilor Bacon.
Thank you. So just to clarify, and thank you for this language, this sounds like we wouldn't need to set up any kind of a public hearing or a special permit process to accomplish what we're trying to do, if I'm hearing you correctly, right?
Well, you wouldn't have to, but certainly any member of the council that got this notice and wanted to have a hearing to find out more about what was coming to that neighborhood, certainly could file an order, and that order could go to a committee for a hearing.
Oh, okay.
There may be some ways to do that. It's not, I don't want to give the impression that there's some authority to block these things that are state mandated.
Right.
However, out of fairness, there needs to be enough flexibility so at least you don't get blindsided.
Right.
And I think a lot of people are still unhappy about the way the 11 Yale Street project went forward. So
Oh, yes.
hopefully this is some recognition that we'll get the council in the loop regardless of what else is going on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Solicitor Bissonette. So on the motion to close the public hearing, right? And then it's provide the language we see here
To recommend to the council.
to recommend to the council. Okay.
So I think I made the motion to close the public hearing.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And then I'll make a motion that we recommend the provided language to the city council, because we could always down the road try to set up some separate process if it seemed to be needed as these things come forth.
Yes.
So
if
this
that
would at least
becomes
be a
it-
boilerplate.
So I think I was a little not too in favor of a new special permit process, but this actually kind of solves that, and I like this. If later on down the road it's really needed to have the special permit process, I guess I could be warm to that. But this actually serves what a lot of us are trying to get done within the community on both ends of the spectrum, if it makes sense.
Well, and we do, I think, have the latitude, and certainly 10 citizens can ask for a public hearing on anything.
That's true,
So, and as Attorney Bissonnette said, a city councilor can request a hearing on it too. So I think it at least, as he said, puts us in the loop.
Yeah, at least
So
we're
I'll
not
make a motion
getting
that we
blindsided.
recommend this language to the city council for adoption, but I guess my only other question through the chair to Attorney Bissonnette is, where would this language go?
Attorney Bissonnette.
Very good question. Off the top of my head, I haven't looked into it. If you want to adopt it tonight, you can put it in ordinance form and
Okay, so,
fit it in where
We'll
it
do
is
that, and then
okay.
most appropriate.
Okay, so I'll amend my motion to say that we adopt the language and request the law department to put it in legal form.
Okay.
And is it fair to say for the next city council meeting, or should we let you give it back to us?
I'm hoping we can have it ready for you by tomorrow.
Okay, so then,
Just need to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, just make.
About what should be fitted.
Yeah, I would say send it to Jeff so that way he can communicate it to all of us. And if anyone has anything different to opine on, just send it in that communication.
Very
okay.
good, thank you.
Okay, so my motion is to adopt the language as presented in legal form to be available for the next city council meeting.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. And then entertain a motion for item 9.
Motion to take up item 9.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 9 was filed by Councilor Anderson Burgos. Order that when the use of a building is changing and requiring permits from city departments but not city council approval, a communication be sent to the city council informing of the change. This will help councilors keep constituents informed so that concerns can be addressed. This is similar. This is why I thought we'd take them up as a package, but
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is
no,
two
I
different
hear you.
processes. It's very similar, but one is pertaining to group homes, whereas the other one
Is
can be
broader.
any building in general.
But the language that we just reviewed is broader.
It is broader.
So,
But
so
would we be able to create the same mechanism
I
for
would
this one?
think we could. So I was thinking we could, that I'd offer a motion that this is complied with through the other action.
Okay. Do I?
If you're seeing it the same way.
I see it the same way. The only difference is I'm not sure if the language is specific to group homes.
That we just looked at?
Yeah.
Attorney-
Whereas this one is just a regular building, any building.
But for a use, a change in use.
Change in use.
That would require approval through some process, planning or, Jeffrey, do you have, here's the language. Let's see if it's broad enough. It's,
See, for a group home or the other nonprofit organization, the partnership.
or other. Yeah,
Oh,
so
or other.
I think it would do it.
Okay.
I think it's broad enough to get at both. And then you're not picking on just one either. Or targeting one.
It does, but there's one piece here where he states building is changing
Use.
use, and I think changing of use is better than saying a group home or a nonprofit function or organization.
Right, but we're also answering the public hearing, so we have to name what was I think we need to name what was in the public hearing, but we could also put other things.
All right.
I don't know,
Attorney Bissonnette, real quick, if you're still there, I see you're still there.
Yes, sir.
Do you see item 9, or do I have to read it to you?
I do. No,
Do
I
you,
see.
do you think that this particular language can, be pulled over to cover item 9 too as well?
I'm looking for a place to amend this to add changes in use. And I'm thinking after organization, comma, Jeffrey, or any changes in prior use for any building.
There you go.
That makes more sense.
That requires somebody to go through somebody,
Right.
right?
That makes more sense. Thank you. So then I would say I'd entertain
All
that
right, so
motion.
I'll make a motion that item
Thank you,
9 is
Sister-
complied with by combining it with the language
For
for the
8.
public hearing.
All in favor?
Aye.
There's 3-0 vote.
To
Item 9 for
adjourn.
complied with, and then I entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
You guys all have a good night.
You too. Stay warm. Ugh.
Thanks, good night, everybody.